Ah, you made it. Welcome back, or welcome for the first time. It's always hard to tell when the timeline's been distorted by temporal fog. And this story comes from a world where the mist never clears. A place where memory drips like condensation and truth is always just beyond the glass. It dampened my retrieval attempts for far longer than expected, but at last I broke through. The story has been recovered. I am the gatherer, seeker of lost echoes and fractured timelines. And thanks to the ongoing support of exonbuzz.com, I can now deliver this tale to your world. But this signal, like the story itself, remains fragile. To keep it stable, I must ask you to like, comment, and subscribe. These simple rituals strengthen the connection, and with enough power will uncover what waits just beyond the static. A revelation that grows nearer with every new subscriber. There is something hidden in the archive, something I am close to revealing, but I can't reach it alone. Now then, let's peer through the mist together. A new story awaits.
On the mist-choked gloaming isles, black monoliths rise from the earth, and time itself begins to stutter. Whispers speak of ancient promises and the weight of truths long buried. In a place where the past repeats and the present fractures, the final note of a forgotten song may decide what endures and what fades. This is the last echo.
The lie I lived was salt. It was in the air I breathed, in the perpetual mist that clung to the gloaming isles, and in the taste of my own regret. I called this exile penance. I called it solitude, but it was a cage built from a single broken promise. My name is Kaelen, and I was once a man whose aim was true. Now I was just a ghost haunting a chain of forgotten rocks, my rifle a relic of a life I had forfeited. The first monolith arrived without a sound. One morning it was simply there in the central valley, a jagged shard of obsidian crystal that drank the gray twilight and gave nothing back. It was immense, unnatural, a silent scream in the heart of the isle. The locals, a sparse community of fishfolk and mystics, whispered of the sky tears. Their elder, Elara, a woman whose eyes held the same depth as the sea, spoke of an ancient legend, a communion with the world's slumbering soul. I saw only a threat. Then came the hum. It was less a sound than more a vibration in the bones, a low thrum that seemed to exist just beneath the threshold of hearing. With the hum came the stutters. A seabird would hang in the air for 2 identical heartbeats. The waves would crash in perfect repeating succession. Time itself was developing a tremor. I cleaned my rifle, the motions of familiar prayer. A promise broken had taught me that some things, once they begin to fracture, cannot be pieced back together. It was on the 3rd day of the hum that the boat appeared, a gray knife cutting through the mists. My perch on the high cliffs gave me a clear view. One figure stood at the prow, a silhouette against the gloom. My heart, a dull and useless stone in my chest, began to hammer against my ribs. I knew that silhouette. I knew the rigid set of her shoulders, the defiant tilt of her head. Elara. The ghost I had created had come back to haunt me. The lie I lived was about to be tested.
Chapter 2.
The reunion was colder than a winter tide. Elara stepped onto the crude stone dock, her face pale and etched with a severity I had not known before. The years had sharpened her, honed her focus into something formidable and brittle. She looked at me not as a man she once knew, but as another piece of this bleak, confounding landscape she had been sent to survey. "Kaelen," she said, her voice flat. "They told me I'd find you here, still hiding." "I live here," I countered, the words tasting like ash. "You're a long way from the mainland." "The anomaly is unprecedented," she stated, ignoring my parry. Her eyes were fixed on the distant peak of the monolith. The Tantalus project. The name was a physical blow, the source of the catastrophe, the epicenter of my failure. It was the reason her team was gone and she was this, a brilliant mind walled behind fortifications of grief. Her volunteering for this mission was not bravery. It was a desperate, obsessive need to face the abyss that had swallowed her life. She needed a guide, and I was the only man on the islands who knew the treacherous inland paths. It was a cruel irony the mainland authorities must have savored. So I led her, the silence between us a chasm filled with unspoken accusations. The hum grew stronger as we ascended the winding trails, and with it the temporal stutters became more pronounced. A waterfall would freeze mid-air for a second, then thunder down twice in rapid succession. That night sleep offered no escape. I dreamt I was back in the Tantalus lab, the alarm screaming. Lyra stood beside me, her calm presence an anchor in the chaos. A promise is a weight. It anchors you to the truth even when you try to swim away. I awoke in a cold sweat, the hum a persistent drone in my skull, my own memory feeling as disjointed as the time around me. Near our camp, nestled at the base of a gnarled tree, sat a metallic data slate, caked in mud and years of decay. My data slate, the one I had lost in the fire, in the chaos. I handed it to Elara, my hand trembling. It was a relic from a past I could not trust, and it might be the only key to our future. Chapter 3. The data slate, though corrupted, was a Rosetta Stone. Elara worked with a feverish intensity, her portable terminal casting a pale blue light on her face as she salvaged fragmented logs and cross-referenced them with the monolith's signal. I stood guard, watching the mists, but my true focus was on her. I had come to these islands to atone, to find a way to make amends for my colossal failure. But what amends could be offered to a woman who refused to even acknowledge the debt? "It's a language," she whispered one evening, her eyes wide with a mixture of terror and awe. "Not sound, it's mathematics, a recursive equation broadcast across space-time. They're not transmitting a message, they are the message." The hum was a scream, she explained, stretched across millennia. An echo of a civilization's final moment, their consciousnesses shattered and embedded into the very fabric of reality, trapped in a loop of their own extinction. They weren't invading, they were haunting. The monoliths were the tombs of a mythic, legendary race, and we were trapped inside with their ghosts. As she spoke, the world outside stuttered violently. The clearing we were in repeated its last 10 seconds 3 times over. We were caught in the feedback loop, being pulled deeper into the temporal anomaly. In that disorienting spiral, my mind fractured. I was back in the lab, the alarms wailing. The lead scientist, Dr. Aris, was shouting at me, his face a mask of desperation. "The core is unstable. You have to sever the connection. It's the only way. You promised, Kaelen. You promised." I saw my hand on the emergency purge lever. I saw myself hesitate. The vision shattered, leaving me gasping for air in the cold mist of the island. Lyra was there, or a phantom of her, her expression one of profound sorrow. "The heaviest weights are the truths we refuse to carry," she said, her form dissolving like smoke. Elara was looking at me, a new, dawning horror in her eyes. She had salvaged the final data log. The video feed was corrupted, but the audio was clear. Aris's voice, screaming my name, and then my own voice, thick with indecision. "I can't. We don't know what will happen." The lie was salt, and the tide was coming in. "You didn't fail to save us, Kaelen," Elara said, her voice trembling with the weight of a decade of misplaced blame. "You failed to make a choice. You let it happen." The truth was not that I had failed my promise. It was that I had never tried to keep it.
Chapter 4. The central monolith, the source of the anomaly, began to groan. Cracks of light spiderwebbed across its dark surface. The loops were collapsing. The echo was fading into a final destructive wave of temporal energy that would scour these islands clean. My redemption was not about earning Elara's forgiveness. It was about fulfilling the promise I had broken. The core of their vessel, the energy source Eris was studying, it operated on harmonic resonance, Elara said, her mind already working, calculating. They weren't trying to contain a blast. They were trying to tune an instrument. We don't need to destroy it. We need to complete the equation, to resolve the final chord. She worked frantically, her fingers flying across her terminal, calling out coordinates, frequencies, and timings. It was impossible. A microscopic fracture point inside the crystal's core, which only became exposed for a nanosecond during the loop's primary cycle. No machine could make that shot. But I could. My rifle felt different in my hands, not a weapon of death, but a tool of precision. Elara had fashioned a resonant core from the data slate's casing, a tiny dart designed to introduce a stabilizing frequency. All my years of training, my preternatural understanding of wind and distance and timing had led to this single moment, to make amends with the ghost of Eris, with the woman before me, and with the man I was supposed to be. "Now, Kaelen, on the next cycle," Elara yelled over the roar. I saw the stutter, the waterfall freezing, the bird hanging in the air. In that sliver of impossible time, I saw the fracture point flare within the crystal's heart. I did not hesitate. I breathed out, the world narrowing to the rifle, the target, and the promise. The rifle cracked, a sharp counterpoint to the deep hum of the monolith. The tiny core flew true. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the agonizing hum of the monolith changed pitch. It rose, becoming a clear, impossibly beautiful chord. The light from within the crystal turned from a furious red to a serene, brilliant white. The temporal stutters ceased. The air grew still. The great monolith did not explode. It dissolved, turning into a billion points of light that ascended into the twilight sky and vanished one by one. The echo was gone. I lowered my rifle, the weight of it, the weight of everything, finally feeling bearable. Elara looked at me, and for the first time in 10 years, I saw not a survivor, but the woman I remembered. The chasm between us was not gone, but the accusations had faded. In the quiet that followed, a single truth remained. A promise, kept, even a decade too late, still has the power to save.